Okay, so we're now live, and this is another webinar series with Realm. We've got Suzannah Toop from down in Adelaide from Toop and Toop. Welcome.
Thanks.
And Lisa Pentland from Property Me, General Manager of Sales. Welcome.
Thanks, Patrick. Hi.
So for today, guys, we're going to talk a little bit about change and change management in this industry, and by and large, you know, what tech management looks like from coping with change. And this is a big topic. We've got about half an hour, so we'll move fairly quickly. I think from the perspective of, Toop and Toop, you've been strong in change. You've been strong in dominating your local market. You've been really strong in supporting your brand. You've grown immensely within your market, and you've adopted technologies, but you've also built your own technology. No doubt you've had to be great at change. Tell us a little bit about that philosophy of merging both a tech team, third-party software products, and managing change to be effective.
Yeah, so I think for us, innovation's always been something that for 34 years we've always had it at the centre of what we do. And that 20, 30 years ago, it might have been that there was a floodlit sort of light on top of a signboard, or it might have been that we were doing a live radio stream, 88.8 on FM radio back in the early 90s. But I think now everything's sort of moved a lot towards automation around technology and really having it integrated into the heart of your business. And so I think for us, it's a really exciting time because we do have a culture, and our whole vibe is about how we can always try and think about things differently. So it's not just change for change's sake, and I think that that's really important. It's actually change that we know is going to have a dramatic impact, whether that's with our team and how they do their day-to-day roles, or whether it's for our customers. And so we build a lot of technology ourselves. If we can't find something off the shelf, we obviously want to go there first, and we have a process around looking for great technology that's out in the marketplace, because we can grab it in, plug it in and keep moving, which is great because speed's super, super important. But if it's not available, then we will look to build it ourselves, and then make sure that we've got a really unique tech stack that allows us to be ahead in the market and have that edge on the others in our marketplace. So with that, it's sort of a bit of our team have to strap in and go for the ride a little bit. Sometimes it's left, sometimes it's right, and making sure that people understand why they're changing, I think, is one of the most important things, because, as I said, change for change's sake, people just think you're throwing everything up in the air and just for the sake of it, it doesn't go down too well. But if they understand what's out the other end, then it's like, okay, here we go, and they all commit to that. So
I think there's some maturity there that has a couple of levels. First of all, knowing what you're trying to achieve and the end goal in mind, that destination that this journey is for. That takes some analysis, some assessment, some understanding of the triggers and the levers within your business that drives your business, and then therefore what the improvement or the outcome is going to be. That's a state of mind. That is a maturity within your business. Did you always have that? Did you have to bring it in, or did you develop it through years of experience within business management?
I think it's something where we sort of have a thing around the place here at Toop, so we say like client first. And I think really listening to what clients are looking for and what your customers are wanting, that's really key. And I think we sort of navigate our business wherever that's heading. So rather than sort of inward looking all the time, we're often trying to say, well, where do they want us to be? And it may not be inside the industry, because other people may not be able to be, they may not be pushing things far enough of where we need to go. So for example, you look to the banking sort of industry and you look at what they're doing there, and no longer do you go down and walk into a branch. I don't think I've really been to a bank branch in a very long time. I mean, the hours are terrible. You can't get there before 4 o'clock, and they're not really open on the weekend. So it's sort of like, well, how convenient is that? It's not. So we look and say, well, if people are really enjoying that in the banking world, well, we need to try and make sure we're doing that in the real estate world, and just listening and trying to move ourselves there. And so then it becomes quite simple in that regard, because if you just keep listening, you keep knowing where your next move's going to be, rather than sort of whiteboarding something up behind the scenes and strategizing what might be. If you just keep your ears open and listen to what your customers are doing, and not just in the real estate industry, the road ahead and where you need to head and where you sort of the steps to get there becomes a lot more straightforward. So I think we've always had that mindset. We've always been thinking, what can we do differently that's going to add value and make us be able to deliver more than what we've ever done. And then we do a lot of that by listening. And one of the biggest sources of our innovation is actually through any sort of complaints that might come through our business. We don't really see them as complaints. It's more of, oh, far out, have we not explained that correctly to someone? Is there an opportunity there to either give them access to more information or make sure that they're, there's obviously a lot of gems of wisdom in feedback like that.
So certainly, customer first focused innovation is core to Toop and Toop is what I'm hearing there very heavily.
Yeah, absolutely.
Lisa, I think within Property Me, and you do a lot of change management just from the perspective of your customers coming on board and supporting that process. How do you know that a client or a real estate office is ready for change? Just because you're a real estate agency owner doesn't mean you're necessarily qualified to run change management or complex technology management. You may have been trained by a third generation real estate agent. It doesn't necessarily mean that you have the skills to execute this change. How do you know an office is ready for change?
Yeah, you're exactly right with that Patrick. In fact, I guess from our part, the assumption is that they're not ready for change. They know that they need to do this, but the businesses, our customers, are real estate agents. They're not change management experts. So we've built our process and our practice to be able to support them through that process. And prepare them. Sometimes they give us a little more rope that we can use to help them through that process. Other times they let us know with a shorter period of time that they're wanting to make the change. But the key is absolutely preparation. And if we feel that a business isn't ready, then we will make that suggestion that perhaps they spend a little bit more time in that preparation phase. Getting the buy-in from their team is, as Suzannah mentioned, the most important place to start. The team have to know that there's a benefit there for them. And, we're dealing, as you say, with often third-generation businesses that have been doing their thing a particular way and successfully for a very long time. And we do face a lot of change resistance. So just, I guess, supporting team members through that process, having a single point of contact. That person then manages the process internally in their business. That seems to work quite well. And having that single point of contact from our end to lead them through. So ensuring that training's on point and that sort of thing.
In practical terms though, Lisa, that resistance to change, we sometimes forget when talking about these things theoretically. There are real people, real human beings sitting behind that change with real embedded behaviours. And being an ex-psychologist, I know changing behaviours can be tough. What's your advice to property teams who have resistance? You've got that lady, she's been at the centre of property management for 20 years, or a bloke, and he's sitting there going, well, I don't want to change. I know what I do. I know how I do it. I'm at the centre of everything. That's my control. That's my area. That's what I'm doing. What's your advice to business owners who may have resistance to change or are leading a change process, particularly in the technology space? What would you say to them?
Look, there comes a point where a business has to make a business decision. And if their people are genuinely going to be, making it more difficult for a business to change, then perhaps it's time to change that. And the business leader needs to make some important decisions on how they want to facilitate this process.
Yeah. So that's a leadership concern. Like Suzannah, in terms of managing change in your business, strong leadership is always important. The vision is important. About that. What are some other things that you believe have been pivotal in your ability to execute change within your business?
I think almost posing the alternative to team members, because I think if staying still was an option, it's like, well, that they might think that that's an okay option, but you're like, well, hang on, if we sort of cast our minds forward and we continue to do that, like, is that actually going to be an okay position to be in? And with the likes of how fast things are moving, and we want to make sure that we're putting in technology or changes that makes their day-to-day lives easier and better. So it's like you could, keep doing what we've always done with pen and paper, or, taking a long time to do things. But imagine if we actually could strip that all out and have you focusing on, instead of 1, 2, 3, focusing on 4, 5, 6, then that actually becomes a really cool proposition, as opposed to I'm just changing things in my day-to-day just to make it difficult for them. And I think that as soon as they sort of understand that the reasoning as to where we're moving to, and I think it's even comes down to the language that you use. Like, it's kind of like, well, you don't want to change. Okay, well, imagine if we didn't. Like, what does that look like? What does it look like if we just stay put and allow others to come in front of us? And that's not enjoyable. It doesn't look great either. So I think being okay to dive into that, change, yes, it means things are going to be different, but different doesn't mean worse. And I think being bold and clear and committed to the cause is really important too, because if you find a situation where you don't keep committed and there's a little bit of a crack in things aren't 100% going to plan, then team members who don't like change will exploit that crack. And all of a sudden, you've got a situation where what you need to do for the business, you need to put these things in place, but you keep finding yourself in a position where you haven't actually been able to go all the way through and complete that. And I think that's a really big piece, just being clear on what you need to do and staying true to the cause, and then being able to paint that picture of what it's like on the other end. So that's certainly what we do around here. I'm not sure we're putting a lot of things in place these last couple of weeks. So, we sort of, as I said, our team become quite used to it. I almost get the question now where it's like, well, what if we're not introducing new technology? It's like, well, what have you been doing? Like, where's this new piece coming down? I know, hurry up, what are you doing? So, so I think that's going to be a really key. And I feel like the ability to change and the ability to adapt and be nimble and agile is what potentially is going to be the biggest difference between those businesses that come through the other end in this new world, and those that will really struggle to reinvent themselves to where we need to be.
So really interesting, change is very much the new norm in broader business terms, not just this industry. The expectation for change and technological adoption and the level we're hitting, set by the standard outside our industry, like the Googles and the Facebooks, who have set that change mentality, who have set that expectation of quality and execution and customer first and all those things that we're now competing against. That's very important. And you make some very interesting parallels there between, making sure that the team is ready for it. And they almost get to a point where it becomes a culture of change. So when I look at that, I go, well, a lot of big teams that we've done in the agile space, they haven't been ready for agile. They haven't been ready for the change and the speed of it. So we've had to introduce a culture of change first. And that might be something as simple as every day or once a week, you change the position you sit in the office. Your office space isn't stagnant. Where you sit isn't stagnant. Your role isn't stagnant. And just getting little changes to the point where the team says, oh, change is okay. Change isn't that scary. Change works for me. And we see good things out of it. And managing the little cracks or the little, painful bits that come with change becomes a skill that they acquire that enables them to be comfortable with that change.
Yeah.
And I've seen a bit of that out there as well. So if change is the new norm and technology is driving a lot of change, Lisa, I guess this goes out to you. How do businesses stay up with the pure speed of changes in the technology space? How do they adapt to that within the tech space? Because they're getting thrown 50 new things every day. Suzannah, I'm sure you'd sit there and go, I get called by people like Patrick or people like Lisa every day. And it's like, do I take the call or do I go ahead and put my head in the ground? Or do I listen to what they have to say and maybe it fits or maybe it doesn't? So how do you deal with that change speed, Lisa?
Yeah, I think, the change piece is so important, and the culture of the business is probably the first place that you need to start with that. I know, you can imagine for our business, I think our actual team has quadrupled in size in a year. So our team is very used to that culture of change. And it's actually one of the very first questions that we ask in an interview environment is, how are you with change?
Yeah.
So I guess as far as staying up to date or on top of that, your peers. We're so fortunate now to have such easy access to information, who's doing what. And I think the culture of our industry as a whole has changed, and there's much more of a collaborative environment where businesses of sort of similar or like businesses are collaborating cross state, nationally, internationally, with other similar businesses with similar growth or cultural ambitions, and they're really working well together and testing and sharing their insights and experiences with different products. So I think that's probably the very first way to sort of stay on top of what's good and what's not, because there's a huge amount out there for you to choose from. And you've got that fine line, that balance of jumping onto everything at the sort of very early point, or waiting too long and very quickly sort of being behind the times. So managing that is certainly difficult, but my advice would be listen to your peers, see who else is using what products. Definitely the future is greater integration between products, and we're looking for those beautiful seamless integrations between products that are an offering there for you. I guess, and plug from Property Me, we like the opportunity to provide a single solution for businesses that if that's their preference, but then also that seamless integration with a completely open API. So with other businesses that are going to add value to our customers. So that seems to be working well, but sifting through the products that are genuinely adding value is probably best. Not waiting too long, but having a word or listening to people that have tried and tested.
Yeah.
Social media runs rife. You can't afford to put a foot too far wrong nowadays, particularly in the tech space.
Look, I think, Suzannah, you and I have spoken at length about technology strategy and what you've done in your business and the way you've executed and the way you've chosen to get best of breed and have your data core very solid in what you do. And without giving too much away, I think that you've been very mature in executing that and understanding it. I don't think that a lot of businesses out there in this industry think about technology the way Toop and Toop do. And so, Lisa, when you talk about open API and that kind of stuff, you say open API and I say open API, and we integrate with you guys, and we've got our AI that sits on top of and automates a whole lot of things on behalf of Property Me. But then you look at it and you say, well, you're talking to property management teams and to principals that when you say API and open API, they go, well, what are you talking about? It doesn't make any sense to me. I literally don't understand the words that are coming out of your mouth, because they're technologists. They sell and they get scared and they run away and they go back to what they know, which might be selling a home. And so the question, I think, is for Suzannah, for you, if you've got a whole lot of peers that are out there that are working in this archaic server-based tech that they haven't changed in 20 years, or they're not technologically advanced, what would be the first three things that you would do if you were taking over that business and looking at implementing change and a tech stack to enable the business moving forward in the new generation?
So I think finding out and asking key questions of providers in the technology space is key, because I think often you don't know what you don't know. And I think we can all fall into the trap of where we've been, unfortunately, as an industry previously, where we've had a system, it's been all encompassing, and then it's been like blocking, like I guess to the exclusion of others, or to the exclusion of having things seamlessly talk to one another. And I think that for me personally, as a principal owner of Toop and Toop in property management, I'm going, well, I don't feel comfortable hitching my sort of ride to wagon, or whatever the saying is, to one particular provider now, because that's okay for the time being. But if I can't be flexible, agile and nimble down the track and move to where I know I need to move to, then I have to make a decision today about how I see the technology looking for our business for 3, 5+ years, because I can't put our business through the trauma of re-going to a new platform every 12 months. So being able to be flexible, pick and choose what you want, and then knowing that that will change in 12 months or 24 months. And if you're not picking the products that allow you to be flexible today, then you're going to find yourself, again, fast forward 3 years down the track with a platform that hasn't been able to keep up in all the areas you need it to. You haven't been able to plug in the latest and greatest thing from Silicon Valley that's just hit the shelves because you've got a base platform that doesn't allow that flexibility. And so then you have to get into that mindset again of, well, oh my goodness, I've got to have to try and make my whole business move again because something new's come off the shelf, and I've got to retrain all my team and put the business through that trauma all again when we need to get out to list properties and sell properties and do what we do best as real estate agents. So the 100% decision making that we're doing at the moment, where we've moved to for our platform, is that it's got to be based on future proofing our business for the future and for the technology that we might want to plug in down the track. So we won't be locked in to the same solutions today. Like, we might still well keep exactly the suite we've got, or we might know that we can plug and change it as the times change, because we know they will change. It is absolutely inevitable, the fact that we would continue to need to adapt what we're doing because our clients are changing, because our services are going to change. And so making sure that the most pressing thing for me with my Toop and Toop hat on, principal hat on, is having that flexibility, because then we can, it's not such a big decision then, because you can keep modifying, tweaking your technology as you go, and you just plug something else in if you need it, or plug something out. So that's probably the big thing that I would be talking if I was walking to another real estate company and looking at that technology, is can you do that? And as you mentioned, there's open APIs and there's open APIs and integration. And I think integration can be the downloading of an Excel spreadsheet and someone manually typing those details in behind the scenes of a technology company. You know, that's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about you put a bit of information in one in one platform and it instantly appears in another. We're talking about like the magic happens when everything plugs together and you get access to your data and you can use your data wherever you want to on your website. You can connect apps together. You can give your landlords and tenants access to more information that they've ever had before. You can predict trends. You can literally use your data, and we've never been able to do that really before because the technology hasn't been at that level.
Yeah, and I think you're absolutely right. And look, I used to be a technology strategist consultant for fast growth technology companies, and this is the evolution that happened in, you know, accountancy software and sales software, CRM software outside of our industry 15, 20 years ago, with Salesforce coming and going, look, we're cloud and you can integrate. And then now there are all these really fantastic products that tacked onto that really smart, solid core that enable you to run your strategy in your way. So no one business is the same. And in a fierce competitive market like real estate, your brand, your strategy, your execution needs to be flexible. And if your core platform doesn't allow that flexibility by talking to the things that you want to put around the edges that define who you are, define your service, then you're hamstrung. You're basically handcuffed and can't make any moves. So then the technology of choice for you has defined your ability rather than you defining your strategy and you executing it how you want. And then the technology platform executes that. And I think that, Lisa, when you look at your implementation of an open API for Property Me, that was part of your strategy for your customers, wasn't it? Enabling them to be able to talk to it and then they can run their business how they want to.
Thank you, Lisa. Finally, there's an open API we can play with.
And I'd have to resonate that because that's the, you know, we're integrated. You know, we started with Property Me. It's the only open API in property management today that I'm aware of that can do everything that it can do.
Yeah, the key part there is, when, you know, we're talking all the sort of tech language there, but the key part is that as businesses, you need to know what it is that your customers want. And, you know, that's where we're growing from. We're growing from the feedback that we've received from our customers, what our customers want. And you're responding to what your customers want. So that's how we create this fabulous environment of success and make life easier for each person, whether it's a property investor, a business owner, or a property manager throughout.
I think that's true. And I think also that it needs to be said that no one software platform can do everything incredibly well. And so there are specialist parts in any industry because it's a complex space. Real estate is a complex space. There is a lot of things that are happening. We specialize in communications artificial intelligence that sits in front of and with and alongside the property manager and the tenant. But at the same time, that's automating a huge amount of work. But really, we're never going to be great at 35 other things that a software stack would look like. And as long as you've got a solid core, as long as you've got a solid property management, trust accounting piece that sits there and runs the core, and then you can put on really best of breed pieces that help you define your service as being highly competitive. And look, competitive advantage is about ongoing competitive advantage, and you can't be ongoingly competitive in a shifting marketplace unless you can be flexible, which is what you spoke about before, Suzannah. You don't know what the industry is going to be like in 5 years. You don't know what your offering is going to look like and how you're competitive in the space. But if you're flexible with what you do, then you're capable of doing that. And certainly with the products that you've plugged in that weren't available in the industry, that you've built inside your tech space for your company. And as I understand, you offer it out in the industry as well?
Yeah, we do. Yeah.
So how does that work?
So we build apps for Toop and Toop, and then we use them. So we've got a maintenance one, we've got lease renewal, and a few others with applications and things like that. And we've just built them, we've used them, and then after winning the SA Awards here and then the National Awards for Innovation with Real Estate Institute, we then had people say, oh, hey, look, we'd love to, if any chance that we could now use those products too. Clearly, you guys have been using them, have been very successful down in Adelaide. We'd love to have access to them as well. So then we went down the path of commercializing our products, and then we use them ourselves, and we thought, well, you know what, we open it up and share with what we're doing here. If people have the same philosophy about innovation, the same philosophy about being open and tailoring your tech suite and just want to come in. I mean, we're our own living example of what we've been able to do. And if people want access to that, we thought, you know what, yeah, we'll absolutely share what we're doing here with others. So we've got customers on our maintenance app right across the country, and they're interested in the other apps that we always use them ourselves first and be our own guinea pigs, as you'd expect, and then we roll them out. So and we're always on them, always developing them, because any update that someone out of Perth might say, wouldn't it be great if we could put this in? Our team here in Adelaide are like, oh my goodness, who gave that feature request? That's awesome. So it's literally bringing the whole people who love great technology, who are really forward thinking, and the whole country gets to benefit from those updates, including our team here in Adelaide.
I think that's a fantastic approach. I think eating your own dog food, as it were, which is a term that we've used in tech management for a long time. You use it, you know the process, you know the business requirement, and then you're working with industry leaders to refine it and share it. That's a fantastic approach. Congratulations. Well done.
Oh, thank you. I think it sort of ended up falling into it, but it's been awesome. And we love it because we get the chance to, like you said, chat with other people who love technology as much as we do and who want to push the boundaries, and we can essentially be their platform to share ideas and go, oh my goodness, wow, we can really change the game by that feature. And the ideas that have come out through the collaboration right across the country has been awesome. Really cool.
Fantastic. Well, we've run out of time, guys. I really appreciate your inputs today. Some really great insights. Lots of sprinkles of gold in there for our listeners. We'll repost this again on Facebook and YouTube and share it around. Thank you for being a part of this, Lisa and Suzannah, and have a great day. And thanks everybody for listening.
Thank you. Thanks, Patrick. See you, Lisa.
Bye, Suzannah.